What's up, Zoners? I am all in on that hero running back strategy for 2024 fantasy football. Hero running back strategy is get one workhorse stud of a running back, man, gets you 20 points per game. And then later on, take a bunch of gambles on some other running backs, hit on a couple, and there you go. I did not do this last year, and I did regret this by the end of the season. And look what we're going to be going over today, man. The top 10 running backs in the NFL fantasy football draft. According to us, Jason and I do differ. We will talk about that, and we're going to be hitting important points, man. We're talking offensive line and some of the most consistent stats that correlate to running back success. So this is a huge show. Let's get into this. Wait for 7 seconds, please.
You can do it!
What's up, Zoners? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and Jason, the lucky bastard youth coming at you live from the West Coast. And this is the Fantasy Red Zone. Crazy episode today, Jason. I was just talking about my draft strategy. It hinges on the running backs that we are talking about today. So my season is determined, man, by these rankings. So I've been going crazy. I spent 8 hours, man, looking at offensive lines yesterday, acquisitions. I need PFF to do a lot of the work for me. I would save so much time, Jason, but you know what? I'm poor. Jason's poor. That leads us into the next thing. Tell the public how they can help the show, man, because we need it.
If you guys made it this far, dang. If you guys made it this far and enjoy two friends talking about football, listening to the insights, hit the subscribe, press the like. We like the likes. Leave a comment. Let us know if you agree or disagree with the rankings. Did we leave anybody off this list? Let us know. We're also on Spotify, the Fantasy Red Zone.
And hey, man.
Good to get you back, man. It's good to get you back.
I was gone for 2 days. We did miss one live drinking show, but Jason did do his own show on Saturday. Go check that out. Winners and losers of the fantasy football, or no, not the fantasy football draft. We'll talk about that later. Of the real NFL draft. And that shit was crazy, Jason. I got to watch the first couple of rounds, the first round. Then I was screwed. I don't know what I'm doing, man. Getting married around NFL draft for the rest of my life. I'm pretty effed.
Well, dude, I swear the draft was in May last year.
I don't know what I fucked up. Anyways, dude, Jason,
Yeah.
Let's get into the news because it's going to be a long show. Let's talk about Zeke to the Cowboys. Jason is a Cowboys fan. Look at that big old helmet behind it. Life size, it'll fit him on a good day.
On a good day. Well, the Cowboys had no other choice other than to do this. So, he's played in that system before, I guess. But he's going to be the third down back. He's going to be the goal line back. So he's going to have some fantasy relevance at least. But they have no other option. They had to do this because they didn't get one single player in the draft, Tyler. Not one.
Yeah, they're like, dude, it's like I was listening to a thing about how they are at the point with Dak Prescott that the Rams were with Jared Goff. They don't know what else to do, man. They want to get over that hump. Dak Prescott does not perform well in the playoffs. But still, man, I do think as far as fantasy football goes, Jason, Ezekiel Elliott will get double-digit touchdowns this season. I think that he would be a decent flex. Because that is going to be still a high-scoring offense, and he's going to get a ton of touchdowns. So I do still think he will be valuable for fantasy more or less. I think he will be more valuable than he was on the Patriots last year, and he had some good games for the Patriots.
Yeah, the last time he was on the Cowboys, he was touchdown dependent, but he was scoring those touchdowns. I think he had like 10 or 12 touchdowns that year, and it was like perfect for your flex.
All right, man. Let's see. Next up, Kelsey. I did hear it was a 2-year contract extension. Apparently just a pay raise. Now he is the highest paid tight end. What does this tell me, Jason? This tells me that they are just even more money towards him. And it tells me that I do not want any piece of Travis Kelsey in fantasy, man. He's taken his foot off the throttle for the last 2 seasons. Reminds me of the Lakers, man. Just get to the playoffs and then flip a switch. The Kansas City is in that era right now, man, where they just need to get to the playoffs. They just drafted another. They've got so many more wide receivers in the offseason, drafted another guy. So I am out on Travis Kelsey. Even more reason, man. Trying to save him. They're paying him more money, man. They want to keep him healthy.
I want to know who was the highest paid before him.
Hawkinson, I think, probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, at least somebody who gets a lot of receptions at least. Because I was like,
Well,
who
dude,
is?
like Hawkinson going to the Vikings, like I'm pretty sure we overpaid for him, made him the highest paid tight end. But he was Rob Gronkowski coming out of college, man. Like I remember when he came out, he was the dude. He was like Brock Bowers was this year. So
He's also pretty damn good.
oh,
Yeah.
Hawkinson, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Hawkinson's on my list. I gotta evaluate his health because right now he is going so late. It's crazy. He's on the list. All right, Jason. Boomer, Esiason, and Phil Simms. Get the fuck out of there, man. You're too old. You're too stiff. You can't fool anybody, man. You think you're cool because you dress cool? Just dress your age. That's all I want. I don't care. Anyways, dude. And now they still have Bill Cowher, who, like, I hate the celebrating and the it's like all this shit, dude. But they did bring in Matt Ryan, and that guy's a stiff too. So I don't know. I'm glad to see Boomer and Phil Simms gone.
I feel like they were like almost the same player or the same announcer or analyst or whatever, and I feel like they always argued with each other. They were like
They're both
same.
trying to get hot, like who's that hot little asshole? That hot little asshole. Who's that little dickhead of a Skip, man? He's like everybody trying to be like Skip. They all try to get super hot, and it's like, dude, just all you have to do is have normal opinions, man.
For the ratings.
That hot little asshole. I was like, ooh, what am I talking about?
Yeah, we were going in a crazy direction.
You can't. That's very loose butthole, Tyler. All right, Jason. Tank Dell shot. This guy's already coming off of a fucking broken leg. Now he got shot. So, even more reason to. All I saw, like, I think he said it was a mass shooting, but anything over 2 people, I think it was just, he was in a crowded place and 2 people didn't like each other and they were shooting. But still, man, terrible situation. He is not at a great. He was like a 3rd round draft pick or 4th round draft pick, turned into a star. Now he's getting shot, getting his leg broken. Jason, he should be back, he says. But man, I think you said that he's a tank. I said Tank Dell shot, and you're all, well, he's a tank. I was like, okay.
Yeah, because I read that he survived it. I was like, damn, this dude's a tank, man. Broken leg, gunshot wound. It don't matter to him. Now he shares blood with Brian Robinson.
Hey, man, bulletproof Rob. Now we're talking about bulletproof tank. I mean, that's bulletproof tank. All tanks are bulletproof. You're not bulletproof tank. You're not a fucking tank. No. Anyways, Jason, last thing. Mekhi Becton to the Eagles. I don't want to talk about this too much, but that was a surprise. I don't see many people covering this. I know Mekhi Becton's been a huge disappointment, man, for the Jets, but which offensive line hasn't been for the Jets in a long time? So I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting getting a 1st round draft pick over there. And I'm going to be going into the Eagles line in depth here in a minute, Jason. So I just didn't know if you heard about that.
I did. I just don't know if he's going to be like starting. Like he's not going to be put in that rotation as a starter, right?
I don't think so because he is not good enough to start. And the only person we'll talk about this later, but I think the only person that's going to be replaced on that line is Jason Kelce. And they drafted a center a couple of years ago to do that. So I think that he will just be for depth, which is pretty amazing, man. When you're signing old 1st rounders, huge dudes for depth. And I think it was $5 million too, man.
Damn.
5 or 15, but either way, the way the tackles are getting paid, I want to say it was $5 million. But I might be tripping. All right, Jason. That is the news. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Nah.
All right, man. I want to talk about something real fast, if you don't mind.
As long as it's not you and TJ Husmanzada, and I don't care.
What about me and TJ Husmanzada? We both went to the same college.
You guys said that you said he's your new best friend.
Oh, I wish, dude. I'd kick you to the curb, Jason. Oh,
jeez.
How much? What'd you say, Jason? Oh, blood, sweat, and tears. Fuck that, dude. I don't care, dude. Time to pay the piper, Jason. I'm TJ's best friend. I'm just kidding. Anyways, Jason, I do want to talk about this real fast. I read that article I sent you about the best statistics to, judge or predict fantasy breakouts and running backs. And it was, the number one most consistent stat year to year was forced missed tackles per attempt. And that is an efficiency stat. So efficiency stats are like, yards per carry, yards after contact, stuff like that. They all like were not that consistent. Just because somebody was good at that didn't mean that they were good in fantasy. The one thing, Jason, was forced missed tackles. That was a very sticky stat. So we do want to talk about that when we can. Also, the sticky stat for the other yards, which are just like regular stats, is yards, Jason. So if a player gets a lot of yards, or I say targets, that's what I'm all about. So we're talking about running backs right now. So we're talking about a lot of yards. So if a running back gets a lot of yards, that usually correlates that he's going to be great the next season as well, and just fantasy success in general. But Jason, the stat that you and I found last year, just because some of these players don't play all the time, man, there's a lot of injured running backs, even on this top 10. So rushing yards over expectations per attempt, Jason, I kind of want to make a new formula where we're looking at that plus missed forced tackles per whatever, plus offensive line win rate. And then I think that's what we need to look at when we're judging running backs. Is that too crazy for you?
No, I was actually, when I was doing my list here, I went to, was it expectation of per attempt, yards per attempt?
Yeah, it's rushing yards over expectations per attempt.
Yeah.
Which I really like. You and I were really into that last season.
And I was actually, I went to Next Gen Stats and I was doing it, but then I was like, I already have a lot of kind of like numbers in my notes here, and I just didn't want to add another one. But yeah, I definitely, there's a huge difference between a positive RYOE and a negative.
And each player today that we're going to be talking about is all positive. I'm pretty sure. I went over most of them.
So. I think the highest was Achane.
Oh, dude, we're gonna get. Okay, let's get into this. I'm gonna share a screen with everybody for 1 second because Jason just brought up a player that's I'm gonna talk about for my dude. But let me see if I can share this, Jason. Let me know if you see it when you see it, because I want everybody to take a screenshot. Maybe I'm not gonna have this up the entire time, but this is just our rough, rankings for right now. We have a little bit of tiers. We're going by our average today. But yeah, dude, you can see right now that Jason and I have, pretty different rankings, and we're best friends. So yeah, man, it's pretty crazy. Even that we talk nothing but fantasy football most of the time, and we still have different rankings. So that's why fantasy football is great. And oh yeah, Jason, is it one player, dude, that was really bugging you? Like, dude, how is this guy not in the top 10? I got to put him in the top 10. But there just did not make it. There wasn't enough room. And he's got a great chance to breaking into that top 10 before the fantasy draft start.
Was there a guy from me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. I think it was Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so he's not in you have him 11th. Yeah. So yeah.
11th. That was very hard for me because it's Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and I'm covering him right now, so we'll talk about that in a second. Maybe I'll change your mind. God damn it. And Jason, the guy for me, dude, you owned him last season. Dude, if you look at every single rushing metric that I just discussed, even the Miami Dolphins were like 8th, Jason, in run block win rate. They did a lot of good stuff in their offensive line in the offseason, but they did draft Jalen Wright. They do have Raheem Mostert, but dude, Devon Achane is on another planet, Jason, when you're looking at these metrics. So for me, I'm like, dude, how do I get Achane into the top 10? I need to get him into the top 10. Let us know what you think in the comments. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Yeah, I think I had him like number 12, and I dropped him back even more after Devon Achane 2.0 got drafted.
Yeah, shit. All right, Jason, let's get into this, man. Number 10 for us on average was it ETN? No, we skipped ETN. I told you to do White, correct?
Yeah, I wanted to get Rachaad White. I wanted to talk about him. He's not great running the ball. He only averaged 3.6 yards per attempt. That's pretty shitty. But his volume and his receiving game was a whole nother level. That's the reason why he did so well last year. Speaking of volume, his snap share was 77%. That was 4th in the league. He was 2nd in carries, 9th in red zone touches, 4th in receptions, 9th in targets for running backs. And he had 12 total touchdowns. I don't really want to get into the offensive line too much, Tyler, because I know you spent a lot of time doing that, but he did not have the best offensive line last year, but they did draft, I think, like the best center, Barton from Duke. So hopefully that kind of like helps out. They got him in the first round. My only concern is that they drafted Bucky Irving from Oregon, the reception guy. You know, he was a dude that I was just talking about, like, if he was going to go, like, maybe to Kansas City just so they could have, like, a pass-catching running back, because they don't really believe in, what's that dude's name? C-H-E. C-E-H? C-E-H.
Oh, CEH, yeah.
I'm like, why am I messing that up? But he went here, and he had 55 receptions last year, but he is not the best runner, and he's smaller than Rachaad White, which I do like, so I don't expect him to take a lot, if any, really rushing plays from Rachaad White. So if that offense line does even better, and he can at least get his like yards per attempt, yards per carry to like 3.9, 4.0, that's an additional yards. Get him over 1,000 for next year, and stick with this receiving game. I like him. I have him on number 10, right? 11, 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think you had him at 10. And we were like, and eventually, in the beginning, he was in our top 10. But then I started doing a lot of research, Jason, and I kept on going down, down, down. He was going down. Dude, so they signed offensive guard Bredesen, who started 16 games for the Giants last year. That doesn't say shit, but still, they got another. Still, bad teams have good players. And they also signed offensive guard Opeta, who ranked 19th, Jason, in run block win rate last year. So that's a really good run grader. Then they drafted the center Barton, 26th overall, and drafted another guard, Klein, in the 6th round. But Jason, you said that Tampa Bay was not good at running the ball last year. That offensive line, Jason, was dead last, 32nd in run block win rate last season. So I saw that and I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, oh my God. Like, what are we doing here, people? Then they went and brought in Chase Edmonds, who kind of reminds me of Rachaad White. And then Bucky Irving, man. Dude, Bucky Irving was the 5th ranked running back by PFF going into the draft. Jason, I know I just talked about how yards after contact or whatever is not that great. He tied Trey Benson this last season at the top of the class in that, and being small as well. He did do terrible in the he did do terrible at the combine, so he got marked down. But yeah, man. So, and also, I do want to say that Tampa Bay was 19th in run rate last year, 41%. But they did get rid of their offensive coordinator, and in a future episode, we need to hit offensive coordinators into this. We just need to do a special show about offensive coordinators as well, Jason.
Oh, we will. Yeah, they have like 3 other running backs on that roster, and I'm really not afraid of any of them. Chase Edmonds, he injured prone, hasn't done anything in 2 years. Sean Tucker, everyone was like, oh, this unsigned guy or whatever, like he might take over the role. No, he didn't. And then Irving, yeah, I can see him taking some receptions, but he's not going to take a lot of rushing. I don't think they're going to put this guy at the goal line when it comes to Rachaad White. And so that's why, like, on my opinion, that's why I have him, like, as number 10. Because to me, he's still...
I think that's why we differ in opinions.
I think, so that's why he is, for me, like, he's still the guy. He's still the guy for Buccaneers. And in my, like, top 10 process, that's huge. It's like, who's sharing what?
And, Jason, he was the king of opportunity last year. And the only problem for me is they got rid of their offensive coordinator. I need to line stuff up, but even with the 32nd, Jason, ranked offensive line, he still did well. So, I mean, I thought that was pretty nice. But yeah, so Rachaad White, I think I've got him ranked behind Aaron Jones right now, dude. I've got ETN, Aaron Jones, and then Rachaad White. So he's got some ground to make up to make my top 10. He is not one of my hero running backs I want. Jason, I did say in the beginning of the intro, I was like, I'm all in on the hero running back strategy this season.
Yeah, I know that's something we've been kind of talking about. Like, the end of last season, we were like, hero.
Dude, because, I mean, we both hit on, like, we hit on so many mid-rounds.
Yeah.
And, but still, by the end of the year, it feels like you need that one consistent. Like, by the end of the year, they peter out almost.
Yep.
So, all right, Jason. Next up is Derek Harry. So this is my boy. I had him ranked, dude. I had this guy ranked right behind Bijan. I had him ranked like over Bijan and Saquon before all this started. Then I started digging, Jason. You know I don't like to dig. They lost 3 offensive linemen, Jason, including Zietler, which is one of their good ones too, to the Lions, dude.
Oh damn!
They did sign left tackle Josh Jones, and he was ranked 23rd in run blocking in 2022. That was 2 years ago. And then he went to Houston and just sucked. He couldn't even make the field in Houston. So they're hoping that they can. I mean, the Baltimore usually knows how to and their offensive line is always usually pretty good. So I guarantee they've got good coaches there. If they can bring that back, that would be a good sign. And then they went out and drafted offensive tackle. Just listen to this guy's name, Jason Rosengarten, in the 2nd round, and then a center Samak in the 7th. So I think that Rosengarten will be a plug and play immediately. But still, dude, they lost 3 offensive linemen, Jason. And they ranked 5th in run block win rate last season. So, I mean, that's amazing. And and they ranked number 1 in run rate, which at 50%. So, dude, they run the ball and then they throw the ball, then they run the ball, then they throw the ball. 50%. Jason, they drafted Rasheen Ali in the 5th round. So they invested a little bit, but this is all about Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell this year. They got rid of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, so they just need to draft some running backs. So that guy doesn't bother me at all. And then let's look at Derrick Henry. He averaged 3.3 yards after contact and 4.2 yards overall, and he did not fumble on 280 carries, which led the NFL, Jason, in 2023. So give me, dude, a workhorse running back, a guy that led the league in carries. It does not fumble. He's fucking huge. Dude, Jason, he's going to lead the league in touchdowns this season, guaranteed. He was the number 3 PFF graded running back from last year. So overall, dude, PFF, when they're looking at this guy and the metrics, he was the number 3 running back overall. Number 2 was Christian McCaffrey. Number 1 was Achane, Jason. That's why I keep on talking about goddamn Achane. Number 2 in rushing yards. I just talked about how rushing yards usually correlate. So, dude, it was a down year, but he was still 2nd in the NFL. Running backs just don't get yards that much anymore, but still. And then, Jason, you'll love this, man. Number 2 in 8-man box faces, number 2 in 8-man boxes faced. Even with that, he was 17th in rushing yards over expectations per attempt. So everybody knew that Derrick Henry was running the ball, and he still was positive in rushing rushing yards over expectations. So now he gets to go over to the number 1 running, one of the top 5 run block win rate team, Jason. Dude, Keaton Mitchell's injured. They got rid of all those running backs. Who is left, man? I mean, rookies and Keaton Mitchell. So I know they have a running quarterback, and that's not great, but if it's anything like last year, Jason, he's going to get 20 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. He will be a top 5 running back in the NFL or fantasy football.
Yeah, Derrick Henry is one of the players that I have outside the top 10, but will love to get because of his upside.
Would you consider him? Would you want him as your hero running back? Because I would want him as my hero running back. That is scary because he's old.
It's his production goes down every year. It's I read some stat too where somebody reaches 30 years old or something, and when they join a new team, they normally don't do well fantasy wise. But you can't tell me this guy's not going to get 15 touchdowns next year.
Oh, dude. It's
because that's what he plays does.
If he plays 10 games, he'll get 15 touchdowns, Jason.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this guy has one of the highest upsides, if not the highest upside in our rankings. I don't know if I trust it enough to have him my hero, but dude, he's a guy that you could get, for me, get him in the 2nd round. What, 6th round?
No, he's going in the 3rd round right now, and I'm like, dude, if you could get, say you're doing the hero running back strategy, and you could get your hero running back in the 3rd round, dude, you get Justin Jefferson, whatever, 2 wide receivers and Derrick Henry or something, or you could go quarterback early.
It's hard not to think about how good that running game is in Baltimore with that offensive line.
Dude, so many opportunities for touchdowns, Jason. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. All right, man. Next up, but I'm going to be preaching Derrick Henry for a long time. And I just want to say that both these running backs so far have not been in the top 12 of the missed tackles per attempt stat. And those are the breakout candidates that we really want to target as far as just on that stat alone. And I do want to get a full list, but the only list I found is on that article I found, and that was the top 12. So I will bring up that stat when it matters, if you're paying attention. All right, Jason. Next up, we got, dude, this dude right here. I had way up high, that way down low. This guy's all over my board, Jason. I don't know what to do with him. Josh Jacobs.
Oh, okay, Josh Jacobs.
Oh, who did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was ETN.
Oh, are we actually doing ETN?
I thought so. I thought those
I
were
said skip ETN because we have 10. So just we can skip Josh Jacobs if you don't have Josh Jacobs.
No, I got Josh Jacobs.
Okay, because I've got Josh Jacobs too.
Okay, let me see. Where am I at?
Right now, like ETN is like right here for us. It's like we keep on switching these two, but we're talking about this guy.
So just to throw it out there, the Rashad White and Travis Etienne, like their stats, their running metrics and receiving it is almost identical. So that's why I have them like back to back.
And me too, Jason. You know, and like I said, I just kept on changing my ranking, so that's why I screwed everything up. Too much research, man.
All right, so Josh Jacobs, he was not the same runner last year. He did have some good games against some bad defenses, though. But he didn't perform at his ADP, averaging only 13 points a game. But unfortunately, he didn't play when Antonio Pierce was fueling the jet for the Raiders. So he didn't get that added boost from the offensive line, later in the year. He was 8th in stuff runs with 45. So that's a rate of 19% of his runs he was stopped behind the line of scrimmage. But he's only 26 years old and now playing behind a good offensive line with the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers picked up Josh Jacobs. Remember how Aaron Jones did in the rushing and receiving for the Green Bay Packers in recent years? Well, Green Bay released him and they got somebody younger who could do the same thing as a bell cow. That was one thing with Aaron Jones. Like, he was always splitting carry. He got to the point where he was splitting carries with, like, A.J. Dillon. Dude, Josh Jacobs could take the whole role himself. And like I said, don't forget, he's only 26 years old. They did draft the running back Marshawn Lloyd. But Lloyd, he cannot pass block, and he can't hold on to the football. And if you can't do that, then you're going to be watching the games from the sideline most of the time. So I'm not afraid of him coming in and doing any, like, 50-50 work. Until he fixed those, until he could pass block, until he can not fumble, he's not going to be seeing much of the field. I have a lot of faith in Josh Jacobs this year. He's actually one of the dudes I really want to target in that new young offense for the Green Bay Packers.
Jason, man, I saw Marshawn Lloyd in the 3rd round, man. If you draft a running back in the 3rd round this year, that's a pretty goddamn big investment. And I wanted to ask you about him, so I'm glad that you hit that. I kind of want to check before I get heavily invested into Jacobs. I do want to check out the tape on Marshawn Lloyd.
He's a good runner. I think he averaged around like 7 yards a carry, but he was never in there passing downs. They did pass a lot, and he did give up a lot of fumbles, even just last year. And downside.
And I think this is a big opportunity to take advantage of people forgetting about Josh Jacobs. I mean, when it's a contract, when you're when you're sitting out because of a contract, running backs never do well after that. And he had a down season. He's the best running back that Nick Bosa's ever seen, Jason. So played against, I believe, Nick Bosa. And that offense, dude, was a top 5 offense by the end of the season. And they drafted offensive line again, dude. So we'll talk about that right now. They signed offensive tackle Dillard from Philadelphia, man. But he was ranked 108th for tackles. So I guess the Philadelphia's worst offensive tackle. He allowed the most sacks in the league last season. They released Bakhtiari. So they released, Hall of Fame Bakhtiari, signed the worst possible tackle in the world. Then they drafted, Jason, offensive tackle Morgan with the 25th overall pick. So 1st round, offensive tackle. Then they went again, dude, offensive line Monk in the 5th round. They're like, fuck this, dude, offensive tackle Glover in the 6th round, Jason. So Packers, man. There's a reason why they're so good all the time. Their offensive line, man, they invest a lot in. The Packers ranked 16th in run block win rate last year. Las Vegas was 18th. So a little bit better than his situation over there in Las Vegas. Jason, you said it, Marshawn Lloyd. And Green Bay is 14th in run rate at 43%. Pretty much every McVay system-ish is at 43% in the league. So I noticed that when I was going through all that. So yeah, dude, offensive line, I actually really, really, really like what Green Bay did with their offensive line in the offseason.
And then they're going to score more points than the Las Vegas Raiders.
Dude, yeah. So I should be bumping up Jacobs instead of putting him down. I don't know. I think he's a good when you're looking at these offensive lines and metrics, I think that he is going to be you could rank him high and be able to get him a little bit lower. So all right, Jason. Good job on that one, man. Let me see what's next, boy.
Where are we going?
Gibbs? Talking Gibbs? Are we ready for that? This is kind of crazy, Jason, because I never rank, running backs in like timeshare situations.
That
very high.
Yep.
And here I am, and you are ranking Gibbs pretty damn high.
What do we have for the average between us? Or sorry, what is he ranked right now?
I have him. You have him ranked 7th. I have him ranked 8th. So together we're 7.5.
All right.
And I have, I've got like Kyren and Henry ahead of him. So for the most part, I think that's why I think I should put Jacobs over. I don't know. Like the one workhorse running back that I don't have over him is Jacobs and ETN, I guess. And Rashad White. Jeez, man. Gibbs is just so talented. Anyways, moving forward, Jason. Gibbs. They signed offensive guard Zeitler from Baltimore. That guy's awesome. Drafted offensive tackle Manu in the 4th, and then guard Mahoney in the 6th. So Jason, I think they were projected after Kelsey left the Eagles. They are projected to be the number 1 offensive line in the league this year. Their specialty is pass blocking, but still, they lost 3. They lost 3 offensive linemen as well, Jason, including Jonah Jackson, former Pro Bowler, but he was the 39th ranked guard last season. So I just said they signed Zeitler, they lost Jonah Jackson and a couple other linemen, but they did replenish that. So still projected to be a top 5 offensive line if you had to think about it that way. The Lions ranked 13th in run block win rate last year, like I said. So if you look at their pass blocking, it's like amazing. But their run block does suffer a little bit. Maybe some of these new offensive tackles can pick that shit up because Dan Campbell just wants to bite people's knees, man. And let's see, Gibbs ranked 10th in forced missed tackles last year per attempt at 0.27. So every 1 in every 4 carries, a little bit over that, he would be forcing a missed tackle. That was top 10. That is something that we want to pay attention to. You want to target these players because they are the ones that are going to break out. So on a more consistent basis. He was the, number 20 PFF graded running back last season. He started so bad last year. I mean, just watching him, could not stay on the field. By the end of the season, he knew exactly what he was doing. So I think that had a lot to do with it. 5.2 yards per carry. That is tied for the second best mark in the league. He created big plays often. He had 33 rushing attempts that went for 10 plus yards or more. That was the 3rd most at the position. And you watch that, Jason. Like I said, I have not seen that since Chris Johnson, where I felt like the camera was zooming in on him, as he ran. And I was like, dude, I don't get that feeling except for Chris Johnson, man. That was a long time ago. And then after David Montgomery returned to injury, Gibbs averaged 14 1-point touches and 73 total yards per game. So he does not get that many opportunities with David Montgomery there. And he was 11th in rushing yards over expectations per attempt. So all the metrics are great. Detroit 12th in run rate at 43%. Again, like Ben Johnson, that type of, he does the same kind of McVay type of stuff, 43% run. So yeah, Jason, they lost a lot of offensive linemen. They signed an amazing offensive lineman and drafted a lot of offensive linemen. David Montgomery's still there, dude. And David Montgomery, look at that guy's stats, dude. That guy, he is so good. Double-digit points every single week. That is the problem with Gibbs, but he is so explosive, and all these metrics that we're targeting are there. So we have to put him up on this list.
Yeah, you said it best. He's very explosive. He's going to be the one dude I have on the diarrhea. There was what was I saying? Oh, he's the one guy on this list that is going to be sharing a lot of carries with another running back. But, dude, he's so explosive. So his true yards per carry is 7th in the league. His yards per touch is 8th in the league. Juke rate ninth, breakaway run rate second, and breakaway runs 11.
Nice.
I don't think you could get more explosive than that. And then on when I was doing the rankings for myself, I did an extra highlight so I did rushing attempts, rush yards, yards per carry, rushing touchdowns, and receptions. And whoever was top 5 in those, I did a little special highlight. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey led the way. He had 4 out of the 5 highlighted, but he was next with 3. He was top 5 in yards per carry. He was top 5 in total touchdowns, and he was top 5 in receptions for a running back. And what I just say about his explosiveness, dude, and what you've been talking about, you have to put this guy in the top 10.
Well said, Jason. All right, let's keep on rolling. Kyren Williams, Jason.
My dude.
Yeah.
My Lord and Savior, Kyren Williams. He was second in averaging points per game. He was first in snap share. We're talking about volume here. He was first in snap share, third in rushing yards, and he missed 4 games last year. Third in total touchdowns. Dude, this guy got the starting running back for the Rams fired, bro. They were like, let's get rid of Cam Akers. We don't need him anymore. Because of the system Sean McVay runs, Williams saw 8 plus men in the box, only 4% of his runs, which is dead last in the league. Man, Derrick Henry would love that.
Oh yeah, you're talking about 8-man boxes, Jason?
Yeah, only 4% of his runs. Crazy.
And the next one up, the next lowest was James Cook at 10%. So it's like James Cook at 10 and then Kyren's at 4. It's like, what the fuck? So, but the one thing I thought about that, Jason, because if you look, I know you're going to talk about his rushing yards over expectation. It was still positive. So at least he's still doing it. He is a good runner, even though he's got an easy job in that offense. He's still a good runner.
Yeah, and then the Rams went out and they drafted Blake Corum, Tyler, who you preached a lot in the past month.
Number 1.
They got him in the 3rd round, and this guy only holds the career and single season record for most touchdowns at Michigan. So he definitely has a nose for the end zone. He knows how to score. Williams and Royce Freeman last year, they took turns. It was kind of like a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Like one series, it was Kyren Williams and it was Royce Freeman. That was the pattern for pretty much 80% of the game. Towards the end of the game, you put Kyren Williams out there to finish out the game. But now with Corum, they went and drafted this guy who has no problem scoring touchdowns. I think Williams will dominate the first part of the year, but I could see a possible, 50-50 split. They're taking series off, series on towards the end of the year when Corum gets more of his legs underneath him. You know what I'm saying? And then, so because of that, I put Jonathan Taylor in front of Williams on my rankings.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny because if it wasn't for Blake Corum, I would have this guy over Jonathan Taylor. It's like you said. It's like, okay.
Yep.
Talk about their offensive line. I just talked about the Lions losing the Jonah Jackson, I'm pretty sure. Well, they went to the Rams, so it signed offensive guard Jonah Jackson, former Pro Bowler, but ranked 39th as a 39th guard last season. They drafted center Limmer in the 6th round and guard Levinson in the 7th round, so they hit offensive line late. They were 14th in run block win rate last year. So they're average, but they're committed to the run. Blake Corum in the 3rd round is Jason. He was my number 1 running back coming out, so that's what scares the shit out of me. And then I read this Kyren Williams from PFF. The only reason that he was downgraded was he dropped 5 of his 38 catchable targets as a receiver last year, and 3 fumbles on the rushing attempts were tied for 8th at his position. So that was what dropped his grade. I did not realize he dropped so many passes, I guess. But dude,
I didn't either.
Yeah, and I want to talk about he was number 1, Jason, in rushing yards per game at 95 yards. So he missed a lot of games, but I just talked about how yards are a huge correlation to fantasy success. This guy was the number 1 dude in yards. So I thought it was CMC, but if you go per game, it's because he missed games. It is Kyren Williams, man. So
yeah, there's a good chance if he would have played a full season like McCaffrey, he probably would have led the league in rushing.
Yeah.
With
and
that
Jason,
average.
Again, dude, run rate, Rams, 43%, man. That's everybody. Everybody runs a goddamn ball 43%.
It's like the movie 23 with Jim Carrey.
Yeah, so Kyren, dude, would be easy number 3 overall for me if it wasn't, Jason, for Blake Corum. So I'm probably drafting Blake Corum late and skipping Kyren Williams early. But that could screw me royally because Kyren Williams is still good, dude.
And he's still young. He's only like 23 years old.
Notre Dame! All right, Jason. Next up, we got Saquon, the Quan father. The Quan. This guy right here, man. Went from the worst situation to the best situation. So you got to start with that, right? Lost Kelsey. The Eagles did. Replaced by Cameron Jurgens, who they drafted in the second round of 2022. So you drafted a center in the second round, Jason, and then you got to learn behind Jason Kelsey. They should be fine. They signed offensive tackle Mekhi Becton. That is the only person they signed. Then they drafted 2 guards in the 6th round of this year's draft. So even though they've got a stacked offensive line, Jason, they keep on drafting and signing people. Let's see. The Eagles ranked first, number one in run block win rate last year. They did draft Will Shipley in the 4th round. I do not like that, but dude, Saquon is going to get, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. Saquon is a generational talent. He's going to get all the carries. He's going to protect. They lost Jason Kelsey, Jason, and what I think is huge. I don't know if they're going to be running that play the same. The scrub, the rugby scrub or whatever it is. I forget what it's called. The blah blah blah. The cush push. Oh, yeah, the cush push. I like that. The tush push, Jason. Yeah, so like I think that they got Saquon Barkley now, man. I think they might just run the ball like a regular fucking team without Jason Kelsey because he was literally like the driving force behind that.
The anchor.
So I could see Saquon getting a ton of opportunities there. He was 17th in explosive run rate. His tackle breaking metrics took a hit, dude. He was 37th in missed forced tackles per attempt. 37th in forced missed tackles per attempt. And that's the one stat that I'm like, hey, dude, you got to be good at that, to correlate with success. But the Giants, Jason, were 31st in run block win rate. So, like, I don't know. I'm throwing it out the window kind of because it's like, dude, they asked so much of Saquon Barkley. We all know how it went. So it's just very hard for him in that offense. But he was 13th in rushing yards over expectation. So he was still positive and, top 15 in that category. Jason, Philadelphia 7th in run rate last season without Shane Steichen. So they still ran the ball a ton. 45%. Dude, this offensive line is loaded. They've got wide receivers everywhere. You can't stack the box. The defense just got way better, dude. They got 2 amazing corners. They're going to be in a lot more games, not in all these shootouts. Saquon Barkley takes screens anyways, dude. So there's going to I don't know how you can get much better than Saquon Barkley on the Eagles this year, Jason.
I think everybody knows who Saquon Barkley is, and you don't even need to really explain why he's good. Everyone knows this guy is good. And he's been good behind a horrible offensive line. Now he's going to one of the best teams in the NFL. The opportunities are going to be there. The success is going to be there. This guy had 10 touchdowns last year for the Giants. This guy's probably going to have 15 touchdowns for the Eagles. And I think you're absolutely right, Tyler, when it comes to the tush push. I don't think they're really going to need to do it as much, especially with the anchor gone, that they could just use Saquon Barkley at the 1-yard line. Quad.
Do you remember what Jason Kelsey used to... Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Quadzilla. I mean, that's basically it.
Do you remember what Jason Kelsey used to scream every time they did that play, Jason?
Fuck me.
Fuck my life. And then just dive forward. Take out people's knees.
Fuck my life.
Yeah, man, because it wasn't good, dude. He didn't like it. So I do have Saquon ranked 4th overall, ahead of Henry, and ahead of the next running back that we're going to talk about here in a second, Jason, who you're extra high on. You must be high on that guy. Anyways, but yeah, man, who do we just talk about? Oh, yeah, Saquon is just a victim. It's just the circumstances are correct, man. His floor is going to be, just think about DeAndre Swift's floor last year, dude. That fool was like a top 10 running back for like 3/4 of that season. Saquon Barkley is going to be his floor is like a top 7 or 5. I don't know, dude. But it wouldn't surprise me if he led the league in everything.
Yeah, and like you said before, they really concentrated on the defensive side of the ball, so they're not going to have to be in a lot of shootouts. Hopefully.
Dude, I love watching Micah Parsons' draft reactions, dude. The Quinyon Mitchell or the corners they drafted, man, he was so pissed they got those corners. All right, dude. Next up, we got Bijan Robinson, Jason's favorite player.
Yeah, I feel like he really is. I need his card, man. I need his card. His football card, not his business card.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you will forget about the 2023 season by this time next year because this guy's going to win you your championship in 2024. We have not seen the final form of Bijan Robinson. Everyone has an idea of this because as soon as Arthur Smith was fired, Robinson shot up the ranks. All his running metrics are good. And his receiving is great. 3rd in target share, 1st in route runs, 4th in receiving yards, and 6th in the receptions. The issue last year was this guy was a bell cow running back, but he only had 2 rushes inside the 5-yard line last year. For some reason, Arthur Smith drafted a running back top 10, then put in a backup running back when Atlanta Falcons got to the goal line. Oh, and also, Tyler, not sure if you're aware of this, but Desmond Ridder vultured 5 touchdowns inside the 10 and 1 inside the 5 last year. Well,
I remember a lot of vulture touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, he's gone. And Kirk Cousins is returning from an Achilles injury, so I don't think he's going to be doing a lot of scrambling or running, right? So, and speaking of Kirk Cousins, in 2022, Dalvin Cook had 56 targets from Kirk Cousins, so I continue to see Bijan Robinson's share in the receiving game to kind of stay where it's at or maybe even increase, but I do not see it decreasing. And he's actually going to get goal line carries for the Falcons this year, and the Falcons are going to be scoring more points a game. Give me Bijan Robinson for the win, please.
Yeah, Jason. So I was really under the impression because the Falcons ran the ball, dude, like 50% of the time. For a period of time, they were the only team that was running the ball more than they were throwing it last year. I was under the impression that they had a great run grading offensive line. That was not the case. They were just dedicated to running the damn ball. They were really good at pass protecting, but run grading was a different story. We'll talk about that. Same offensive line as last year, did not draft any offensive linemen, Jason. So they did not get any offensive linemen through free agency, and they did not draft any. They ranked 28th in run block win rate last year. That bothers me. But now we talked about forced missed tackles per attempt, Jason. And you watch Bijan, and you're like, yeah, I see that shit. He was 7th, Jason. So 0.28. Again, like 1 out of every 4, a little bit more than that. Forced missed tackles. They did draft Jace McClellan in the 6th round, Jason. And again, and they have the offensive coordinator that made Kyren Williams amazing last year, Jason. So that run rate's going to drop from about 49 to about 43. There will be less opportunity, but his slice of the pie should be huge because that offensive coordinator, they like those workhorse running backs over there if they're talented.
Dude, I watched this guy play last year because I had him on my team, and all this guy did, he did. Arthur Smith had him do the same run play every single time he got the ball. It was like a stretch to the outside every time. He always made the first guy miss, it seemed like, but when you know what's going to happen when he's on the field, it's going to be like, oh, it's going to be a stretch play to the left or right. Be prepared. Now when you got somebody under McVay's tree out there, oh, dude, I'm excited. I really wish I had a chance to get him this year, but I don't think I'd be able to, but I think he's going to do a lot better this year with Arthur Smith gone.
I've been drafting Justin Jefferson over Bijan Robinson at the 8th spot, Jason. And like I said, I would draft Jonathan Taylor over Bijan too as well right now, but we'll talk about that right now. 3rd, Jason.
Come on down.
I don't even know where the hell I put my pen. Here we go. So yeah, man, this guy, he didn't run. Did he run for 2,000 yards, Jason?
Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, he did not. He did not. I was like, wait, didn't he? No, that was Derrick Henry a while ago. But Jonathan Taylor was like the won people leagues. It was like 2 years ago. Came back all injured. Got injured. Blah, 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 blah. Got Shane Steichen as a head coach. Dude, Shane Steichen with the Philadelphia Eagles dominated. Shane Steichen with the Justin Herbert in the Chargers. Austin Eckler was amazing. So this coach, man, likes to run the ball and build up his offensive lines, Jason. I say that, no new offensive linemen through free agency. So, didn't like doing it that much, huh? But they did draft offensive tackle Goncalves in the 3rd round. So that's a lot of draft capital. And then I paid attention to this guy where he went. Guard Bortolini. I think that Bortolini, I can't remember if it was him. I think it was him. He had a Olini, like a Chef Boyardee kind of sound to it. And he had an amazing shuttle. And I was paying attention to that for his size. They got him in the 4th round. So they drafted 2 good offensive linemen. The Colts ranked 11th in run block win rate last year, so they love to run the ball, and they're good at it, Jason. Jonathan Taylor Thomas ranked 13th in yards after contact per attempt. So that one valuable stat. Even in that down year, dude, last season, he was still good. Rushing touchdowns in each of his 5 games played. Rushing touchdowns in each of his last 5 games played, Jason. A reception touchdown in the game before that. So he had a 6-game streak to end the season, Jason, with a touchdown in every single game. He averaged 97.4 rushing yards in those games, which would have been number 1 in the season. I just talked about Kyren Williams averaging 95 yards per game and how that was number 1 ahead of CMC. This dude would have got 97, man. So we're looking at Jonathan Taylor being elite. He was also 15th in rushing yards over expectation. Those are the 2 stats that we really like, Jason. He's top 15 in both. Indianapolis, man, 11th in run rate at 44%, Shane Steichen. And guess what, dude? One of the biggest pluses to Jonathan Taylor Thomas this year is Joe Flacco, man, went to the Colts. So Anthony Richardson goes down. You get Joe Flacco, man, and that guy can support some running backs and score the damn ball. So, dude, worst case scenario, which is Anthony Richardson going down, which is probably going to happen. Jason, they got Joe Flacco, and Jonathan Taylor will not skip a beat. He might even do better.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he's one of the most talented and athletic running backs that we're talking about today. And he's got a head coach that knows how to use him, knows how to run an offense. The only reason why I do not have him in front of Bijan Robinson is because the last 2 years dealing with injuries. That's really it. It's the only concern I really have with him. Like, I think Anthony Richardson is going to, kind of like vulture some goal line touches, but I still believe in that same game, Jonathan Taylor is still going to score. I think there's going to be multiple games where the quarterback and running back both score a touchdown. So I'm not too afraid about that. I feel like if this guy can stay healthy, he could be a top 2, top 3 running back at the end of the year.
Yeah, man. So Jonathan Taylor should be on everybody's top 10 list, or top 10 like first round like hero running backs strategy. All right, Jason. Next up, man, we got Breece Hall. I talked so much shit about Breece Hall. Now I'm going to be singing his praises, Jason. From now on, I learned my lesson.
Ooh. And we both had to agree. Did you have him a number 2 also?
Yeah, I think our top 3 are the same. No, wait. No. You're right. Our top 2 are the same. You've got Bijan 3. I've got JT 3.
Okay. So Breece Hall, we have him ranked number 2 for the running backs. And we saw what he could bring to the table last year, especially down the stretch. In the fantasy playoffs, he had 2 number 1s. 2 number 1 finishes last year in the playoffs. Even behind the offensive line, he still managed 4.5 yards per carry. Against the Browns' stingy defense, he averaged 6.5 yards per carry. In Week 18, he rushed the ball 37 times, dude. Are you kidding me? 37 times. The Jets have started to trust Hall after his injury, and I like that. I like a guy who they believe, hey, let's give this kid the ball 37 times in one game. He had 13 plays over 20 yards, 3 plays over 50 yards, and 2 plays over 70 yards last year. He has speed. He has the agility to break and evade tackles. He was number 1 in evaded tackles and 5th in juke rate last year. He can also kill you in the passing game. He was 1st in receptions, 1st in targets, 1st in receiving yards, and 3rd in yards per route run. He had a game where he had 16 targets, Tyler. In that same game, he had 12 receptions. That's 12 points right there for your running back. His downfall last year is that he had 1 goal line carry. I think you could place the blame on the Jets, unable to move the ball because they were dealing with backup quarterbacks since week 1. But yeah, with one goal line carry, this mofo still managed 9 touchdowns. 9 touchdowns. So this guy can score all over the field. Now Aaron Rodgers, he will try again, which means a more productive offense, more points scored, and more opportunities for Breece Hall.
Jason, so they went out and signed your Tyron Smith. Then they went out and signed John Simpson from Baltimore, Morgan Moses from Baltimore, and Jake Hansen. So they got 1, 2, 3. They went out and signed 4 offensive linemen in free agency. Then they drafted Fashanu, like one of the best offensive tackles in the draft, Jason, 11th overall. So Tyron Smith, Fashanu, a bunch of dudes. They did that because the Jets were 29th in run block win rate last season, and they sucked everywhere else too. They gave up a ton of sacks, almost ended Aaron Rodgers' career. And then, like you said, dude, he ranked 5th in forced missed tackles per attempt. That is the one stat that is like super sticky right now. They did draft Braylon Allen in the 4th round and Isaiah Davis in the 5th round. I thought it was weird they drafted 2 running backs with Breece Hall.
Yeah.
But still, man, Breece Hall is going to be amazing this year as long as he stays healthy. And the Jets do not like to run the ball. That Nathaniel Hackett, dickhead, asshole, whatever. 29th in run rate, Jason, at 37%. 37 is kind of low for me. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers, dictates a lot more running the ball.
Yeah, that's where they didn't run the ball as much until, the end of the season when you had nothing but these Zach Wilson and what's that guy's name? Trevor Siemian as playing quarterback. You would think you would rather have them run the ball or try to run the ball than pass it with those guys. But yeah.
All right, man. Well, that's easy. I feel like Breece Hall's easy, and this next dude's easy. Christian McCaffrey, of course, he's number one. The only way that he's not the number one running back every single week is because of injury. So let's talk about their offensive line, dude. People think that the 49ers have a great offensive line. They do not. They went out and drafted tackle Pooney. I like that name, Pooney. 3rd round, and Kingston, USC, Jason. Hey, Sean Kingston, the beautiful girls. In the 5th round, Jason. So they got offensive tackle in the 3rd and 5th round. The Niners ranked 23rd in run block win rate last year, but they ran the ball 3rd most in the league, so they did it all the time, but they weren't that great at it. Christian McCaffrey, the number 2 PFF graded runner last year. A-Chan only person better. 24.5 fantasy points per game. That is over 3 fantasy points per game than Kyren Williams, who was the number 2 fantasy points per game player. And that was 7 more points per game than anybody else not named Kyren. So, Jason, you were literally getting another player if you had Christian McCaffrey. The difference, the top wide receiver might, average 1 more point per game than all the other wide receivers. Same thing with the quarterbacks and everything else. Dude, Christian McCaffrey was like 7 fucking points. That is the craziest metric. So, Christian McCaffrey wins people leagues. I don't know. Number 1 in 8-man boxes, Jason. 35% or some shit. Number 2 in rushing yards over expectations per attempt. So that's great too. San Francisco 3rd in run rate. So I talked about that. They did draft Isaac Guerrero in the 4th round. They traded up. And you know what? I don't care. This guy literally is speed, man. He's all speed. Elijah Mitchell, your ass is gone. Isaac Guerrero is now the new Mitchell. I just said his name. Elijah Mitchell.
Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, so that's how I feel about that. But yeah, CMC is easy, dude.
Don't gotta spend too much time on this. I'm looking at his running metrics and his receiving metrics for running backs, and there's nothing higher than 5. He's top 2. He's number 2 in snap share, number 1 in rushing yards, number 2 in receiving yards, number 3 in receptions, number 1 in total touchdowns, 21. 1 in target share. Yeah, it's just 1 and 2s across the board. This guy. He is a running back, and he's fit, and he is put in the perfect offensive system. So,
all right, and biggest threat to him is Trent Williams going out, because then that whole offense sucks. But that is the show. If you disagree with anything we said, man, please let us know down below, because we can change our minds given information. If you want to help with offensive line stuff, let us know more about that, or some offensive coordinator stuff too. We got to hit that again. But anyways, Jason, hopefully we earned a thumbs up. Hopefully we earned a subscription, man. If you are not subscribed, we need that 1,000. We need it. And we're not going to get there without you subscribing now. Please help us explode everywhere. Anywhere we want, man. Just help us explode. Jason, please tell the public, or please send us out.
Yeah, so we got a video coming out, or we're going to be live Friday. I think we're going to do the top 10 rankings for quarterbacks now. So make sure to check it out. We're going to be drinking, and we will enjoy your company if you shall attend. I will talk to you live. Deuces.
This is the Fantasy Red Zone, and we appreciate you.